All right, welcome back. Hollow Knight. This is going to be episode 8. We're getting underway, and we're in the City of Tears. So there are a couple of apartments just outside of the King's Station. So we're going to start out by exploring them, and then move on from there. Okay, a nice grub rescue there, and you can see that fluke nest with shaman stone just takes 2 shots and a heavy sentry is down, you know. More evidence of just how powerful that fluke nest charm really is. Okay, what we've entered here is more than an apartment, obviously. This is a sub-area that is called the Pleasure House. So, let's see what's in store for us here. So quite a nice melody from Marissa there, and like other spirits, I could put her to rest with the dream nail, but I felt like, you know, she's something nice, something that should be remembered, and accordingly, I didn't choose to dream nail her. So here is a hot spring, just one room up in the pleasure house. You can see the pleasure house now on the map. And I'm not going to do a map break just because there's not much progress to report on here in the City of Tears, but soon I'm going to have the zoomed out map, kind of the world map view going on, and I'm going to do a more in-depth map break involving last episode, where we've been, and this episode where we're going to try to get to. So as for what is this place, you know, the Pleasure House, with a name like that, it kind of sounds like maybe it should be more risque, like, you know, a brothel or something. But it looked more like a theater with a hot spring, so my guess more is a place of relaxation. Okay. A big glowing husk. That guy is called a gorgeous husk, and the journal just says a corpulent husk encrusted with a shining metal retains the instinct to hoard geo. And most interesting, it drops 420 geo, which I have to think is kind of a, marijuana reference. There's only one in the game. We found it, we killed it, we got its 420 geo. I can't make any more sense of it than that. So that's the apartments out there. There was one other one we didn't go in. You may have noticed it had kind of flowers coming out of it. That was where we found Eternal Immolidia when we were exploring the Royal Waterways. And recall I had opened the door. Well, that's where it opens to. And because we had already been in there and seen her, I didn't feel that we needed to explore in there. All right, the Kingdom's Edge, Devatron. We have entered a new area, and with it a new critter. A big giant fly called a boo fly. There really isn't anything to them. They kind of move slowly, and they'll sort of come near you or not. They're big. That's all you can say. And another new critter there, and a very challenging one, the Primal Aspid. Similar to an Aspid Hunter, but more hit points, and they shoot 3 projectiles, not just 1. And you're also seeing just how hard it is to use Fluke Nest sometimes. If it's something big and you're right up on it and you can just blast it, it's fine. But if you need to kind of direct it at something, it's a little tricky and often doesn't work. Okay, that never ceases to amuse me. And what that is the tail end of a very, very large caterpillar by the name of Bardoon. Now, shortly here, after a few things, I'm going to edit in some footage I filmed way after this point in the playthrough, but I had to splice it in here. And that's going to be footage of us finding the top end of Bardoon and actually talking to him. So just sit tight on Bardoon. We're going to get to him shortly. All right, 10 hits to kill that new critter. Those guys are called hoppers, and they're actually not too hard. It's just we're still using an unupgraded nail, and that's why it's taking so many hits, because we're at a very late stage area-wise and, bestiary-wise in the game. And we should be using a much better nail than we are. Why I've put off upgrading it so long, I'll explain later. But if you had an upgraded nail, those guys wouldn't be that tough. Or if we just had good old Shade Soul, it would be fine. But I have this Fluke Nest equipped for a reason, and I don't want to really waste spells killing these trash mobs. Because as you can guess, the reason I have Fluke Nest equipped is because we're hunting a boss. And this boss is going to be in the Tower of Love. And the Tower of Love is opened with the Love Key, Debatron. Now, the one thing I want you to pay particular attention to in this boss fight is the color it oozes when it takes damage and when it dies. We've been paying attention to this throughout the game, and notice it here. All right, the Collector. Very tough boss. Challenging fight. Nearly died, as you can see, down to 1 life. Now, as for the color he emitted when he took damage and when he died, it was black. It was a bunch of black inky dots. And the only other creature we've seen do that so far is our little guy himself. And the only other place we've kind of noticed this black inky substance is when we were way down deep in the ancient basin. So we're going to have to try to connect all these dots later, no pun intended. As for now, our just desserts, the Collector's Map. And this is his map, and what it does is it modifies our existing map to show the location of all the little captive grubs throughout the world. So presumably the Collector was responsible for capturing them in their little glass jars. Okay, because I opened the map here, I decided to do a map break. And there's several shots that this is going to require because we've covered a lot of ground since our last map break, and also with things like Dream Gate and the various stag stations, we've kind of gone all over the place. So this is going to be kind of a big map break, and like I said, use several shots of the map. As for the Collector, I don't want to use the map break to talk about the Collector. A lot needs to be said about him. The problem is he's kind of an enigmatic figure in the world of Hollow Knight and the story of Hallownest and all this. And he spawned just quite the avalanche of wild goose chase theory crafting. I mean, Reddit posts and Steam forums and on and on. He really is tough to explain and to sort of fit into the conceit of the game. So rest assured, I will make my attempt. The reason I don't want to do it now is because we need to learn a little bit more. For example, what is this black stuff? And that's going to require more progress. And as for my sort of grand theory, that's going to require a lot more progress, several more episodes, and involving encountering the dreamers and stuff like this. So just put them on the back burner, keep them in the back of your mind. I will make an attempt, but we just don't know enough about him or the world yet to do so now. Okay, so I'm going to summarize what we did since our last map break, which, if you recall, was over here in the Queen's Gardens. after we had just entered there. And when I finished that map break, all I said was, we're going to kind of go down and then make our way back to the fungal waste, and the rest of the episode went by. So as for that progress, you recall we basically, had to do a few things to get certain gates opened. I think we did a whispering route, but most important, down this sort of dead end, we found the love key. And that is what enabled us to open the door and get into the Tower of Love and encounter the collector. So that was pretty big. We came down this way, and if you recall, there were those mossy vagabond corpses overrun with infection here. Along the way, I think over in here we maybe saved a grub, got that hidden charm, the spore shroom in here. And then, yes, we made our way back through the fungal wastes. And I believe we went this way, up through here. And this was the spot here where I always turn right and go here when I need to go left. But this was the one time that we were supposed to come in here. And right in here is where we fought Elder Hu, the warrior dream. From there, we went back up and explored this area we'd never been in before, and we found Leg Eater, the vendor with the fragile charms. And then we hopped over here. We did a whispering route in here, and then once we were done, we went back out and up to the Forgotten Crossroads, and right over in this area is where we got that journal entry from the fossilized Gome. But also recall, as we pushed into the Forgotten Crossroads, we discovered that they were now the infected crossroads. Okay, so let's get to the next shot for more of that. Okay, and on to a better view of the next steps. We had come into the Forgotten Crossroads, which, by the way, will always kind of be referred to as the Forgotten Crossroads on the map. As we saw, it had become the infected crossroads, but it really wasn't a new area. It just, had become infected by all the orange light and pustules and whatnot. And basically, we just made our way across and way over this way, straight to Salubra, because we needed to buy another charm notch, and from there over to Blue Lake, and just super dashed across and then up into the resting grounds. Now I think it's probably about here, right after we popped up, we fought another warrior dream. This time it was Zero, and then headed over and up to the seer, whom we hadn't seen since we, had met her the first time and gotten the dream nail. So we had a lot of catching up there to do, a lot of turn-ins, 100 essence, 200 essence, 500 essence, etc. And she gave us our rewards, and one of those was opening this gate here into the Spirit's Glade. And that's when we went through and kind of talked to all the old spirits, and we kind of theory crafted about this old tribe of the seer and what this place meant, and how her old tribe and the dream nail perhaps fits into what's going on now, etc., etc. And there was also a whispering route to do in here. And then from there we just, went to the stag station here, and I'm not going to pull up a map for the next steps. Basically, we just stagged to the City of Tears. I think we did one of the flames for Grimm. Then we made our way down to the relic vendor, turned in our relics for Geo, gated back, and then, stagged over to Dirtmouth. So let me get Dirtmouth up for the next bit of the map break. Okay, so here a better view of Dirtmouth. And if you notice, it's kind of on top of the other icons. It's this sort of yellowish, goldish circle. That's the icon for wherever your gate is, your dream gate. So just be aware moving forward, that's, if you see that on the map, that's what that means. So having gated back to Dirtmouth, or rather we stagged back to Dirtmouth from the City of Tears, and then we reset our gate to this point. From there we went over here, went up, grabbed the last flame for Grimm up in the Crystal Peak, and then I believe we gated back. And then once we were back down in Dirtmouth, we went into the crossroads, and it looks like we came all the way down here and into the ancestral mound. If you remember that part of the episode, there was a whispering route to do, and then from there we went up and visited the Grub Father and got our rewards for all the grubs that we had rescued thus far. And then I believe we just came back up and did a little shopping, and ultimately turned in with Grimm because that flame in the Crystal Peak area was 3 of 3. At that point, he just said, go get more flames, right? So we had our next 3 flames to do, and the first one was over in King's Pass. So we went over here, platformed up, went into King's Pass, and found the first of the next 3 Grimmkins. And then I believe we gated back, and then we took the stag back over to resting grounds. And for the next bit, I'm going to use another shot, so let's get to that. Okay, and for the last shot of this map break, again, sorry it's taken so many and it's so disjointed, but we covered a lot. We had just stagged back to the resting grounds, and I know this up here isn't a very good shot of it, but we really don't need to map out much. Most important was that we came down this way and we found the next Grimmkin right in here. So, which is why we had come this way. And then recall we used this elevator for the first time and took it all the way down to City of Tears. And then we went up into this area we had never explored, and we found a vessel fragment up here among a bunch of old, various husk guards and gluttonous husks and, City of Tears residents types of enemies. Nothing special, but we got a vessel fragment out of it. And then after that, we made our way down to King's Station, and that's where we ended the episode. Recall we had kind of done some neat platforming and found a hidden relic right there, and then we ended the episode. As for this episode, and we have done a little bit over here in Kingdom's Edge, but the problem is we haven't gone and gotten the map yet, so that's coming real soon. It's just I didn't go ahead and do that. But, as for what we did, we basically popped in here, made our way up, and then kind of back over to where the Tower of Love is, and got in there and fought the Collector, right? And so this is where we are. And as for the Collector's map, you can see this is the icon for the captive grubs. There's another one over here. And the good news is you're not seeing many of these icons. We've almost gotten them all. But there are a few left, and that's what the icon looks like moving forward. Okay, with all that out of the way, we can get back to the episode and move on. I do want to mention real briefly, though, as far as the actual fight with the Collector goes, it's one of the harder fights in the game, at least for me. And as sloppy as it looked and as close a call as it was, it actually really wasn't that bad a take, believe it or not. It really is that tough. He's just one of those bosses. His movements are very fast. And, and kind of surprising. And with all the other enemies popping out of those jars, they always kind of seem to be where you need to be in order to avoid him or one of the other little ads or something. So it's just one of those fights that constantly throws your timing off and your positioning. So looking back at it, I think if I had to change anything, I might not use Fluke Nest, maybe just go with Descending Dark, the chain dive over and over again, and try to exploit that brief moment of invulnerability like you've seen me do. I think that would have been the safer play. Because Fluke Nest requires timing, and as you saw, if you don't time it right and get those baby flukes to hit the targets, then you're just wasting time and soul, etc., etc. So that might be something I would change if I had to do it all over again. As for moving on, you see that we've got a more typical adventuring set of charms equipped. With the exception of Grimchild, we're going after that third flame for Grimm. And you also noticed I set our Dream Gate up there by the Stag Station. So this is what we're going to do. We're also going to get the map for our new area, Kingdom's Edge, and we're going to explore it some more. So nothing against the poor boo flies there. I actually kind of think they're cute. But one of the advantages of having to hit something a lot is you can build up soul. Okay, so we've acquired the map for Kingdom's Edge, and it's going to be just a second before I open it. I actually open it because I'm trying to find where this third Grimmkin is, not because I'm trying to do a map break or anything. But either way, you'll see it briefly. Again, there's not much to report on, but you will get to see it. Alright, so 2 Shade Souls, making short work of that Grimmkin, and that gets us 3 of 3 on the flames for Grimm, so we can go back to him and advance the DLC. The only thing I wanted to mention or add is that first round of Grimmkins that we killed for the first 3 flames we turned in, those were actually called Grimmkin Novices. And this next round, although maybe you couldn't tell because I tend to kill them quick, those are called Grimmkin Masters. And as you can imagine, moving forward, the next set will be even harder, and they'll have, a slightly different title. So I will cue you in when we get to the next wave of them. But for now, we're pressing on into Kingdom's Edge. All right, so a great hopper, Devatron. Just a big version of a hopper. And if a regular hopper takes 10 hits of my current nail, you can imagine how many it would take to kill a great hopper. So best to just kill them as quickly as you can from a distance with spells. So, no, I wasn't actually trying to answer my own question and take one of these guys out with nail strikes alone. It's just I was trying to build up my soul and heal up my lives a little bit. And this is a real easy spot to do that. You can just kind of cheese the guy on this ledge. Eventually, I go ahead and take him out with a Shade Soul. And much to my chagrin, I realize there's a second great hopper over here. And he kind of surprises me, so I have to, immediately go into spell mode.
To sta jugando. Hele Sommet. Vamos. Final.
Okay, so our third and final nail art, the dash slash. And honestly, I can't tell the difference between dash slash and great slash, other than that, you do the dash slash on the tail end of a dash. You charge it up, hold it down, and then dash, and as you're dashing, release it. So I think you can do the same thing with great slash before you have the dash slash, but, I mean, who knows? Okay, so as you can see, we've started descending into this secret area beneath the kingdom's edge. It's a long kind of gauntlet, if you will, series of uncovering loose floor tiles with descending dark and exploring further and further in. And as you'll see, it's pretty dangerous. See, like that, just out of nowhere, two hoppers appeared right as we were taking on a primal aspid. So it's a pretty tough little rundown here, but there's some, good rewards in it for us. So let's see how it goes. Okay, always nice to rescue a grub. And after this hopper here, you're going to see there's a doorway to the right we go through. And it leads to even deeper and darker secrets beneath Kingdom's Edge. So let's see what's down there. Okay, what appears to be an endless stream of geo lodged into this old fossilized black egg or whatever it is. But notice the final tally, upper left under our geo count. The final tally is up. What do you know? It's another 420, and with it, most likely another, pot smoking reference. So I don't have anything against smoking pot. And I realize certainly creatives have oftentimes throughout history done so, and perhaps today more than ever. Accordingly, if any or all the guys at Team Cherry are just, incredible blaze out stoners, by all means, I think it's great. Nothing against it. However, oftentimes, not always, but often things start to go awry whenever stoners get together and start to brainstorm and say, write a story, or try to write music, or, I don't know, try to write a story for a video game, anything. And again, not always. Some of them are very good at it, and, some great works of art have come out of, a lot of guys getting stoned and working together. However, what can happen, and frequently does, is good old-fashioned coherence and continuity and the proper order of events gets sacrificed in exchange for things that just seem, far out, man, at the time. Now, am I saying right here, right now, that's what happened to this game? No, I'm not. Rather, we should reserve our judgment until we've gone through the whole game and put our time in and done our work and figured out what we can figure out. Then we can decide. Then we can evaluate. And on that note, we should be wary of the fallacy, the argument from incredulity, which is, I just can't imagine what the story would be in this case. I can't imagine how all these things fit together, therefore it just can't fit together, right? That's the argument from incredulity, which is a very dangerous risk that we take. And I'm certainly the first in line to say, hey, just because I can't figure something out doesn't mean that it's not figure-outable, if you will. So what then am I saying? We were just cruising along, exploring Kingdom's Edge, and all of a sudden we get our second, 420 reference, and B. Burner launches into this massive diatribe, against, pot smoking and, and, the story and everything. What I'm saying is this. If you're going to put pot smoking references into your game, then you better make damn sure that your story is coherent in the end. Because if it's not, then you just opened yourself up to being a bunch of mindless stoners that got together and started jamming just to see where the music would take them. And if that ends up being the case, then all these people that have bought into your game and put hundreds of hours into it and made videos, etc., and tried to figure out, what does all this mean from a story point of view, And meanwhile, you're just hiding behind, oh, we're not going to spoon feed the story to you, when in fact you never wrote the story, then people are going to be pissed. So you may have noticed those new enemies, little tiny small bugs buzzing around. Those are called hivelings, and they're little bees. And that big structure actually to the left is a hive. So we'll have to figure out how to get into that and explore it later. In here, a hidden charm, the Quick Slash, 3 notches, pretty basic, increases the attack speed with the nail. And this is hands down one of the best charms in the game for a melee build, for obvious reasons, right? When you melee, you have to get close to your target. And because things in this game move around and hop and fly everywhere, oftentimes, you know, when you're in melee range and attack, and then you recoil or it moves away, you're immediately out of melee range. So if you can increase how many times you can hit something when you actually are in that melee range, like say get 2 instead of 1, or sometimes even 3, then you're going to just increase your damage, you know, immensely.
Madaula Misu.
Okay, back in Dirtmouth to check the vendor, Sly, but where is Sly? What's going on? What's this?
¿Qué volen? ¿Más? Vamos.
So all this time, Sly was actually the nail sage, kind of the teacher of the teachers. And having learned all 3 nail arts, he's given us Nail Master's Glory, a new charm.
Vamos.
And this charm, the Nail Master's Glory, it's actually one of the best charms in the game. What it does is it decreases the amount of time required to charge up a nail art, like, say, Great Slash. Instead of 2 seconds to charge it up, now it only takes half a second. So it's very useful, and for only 1 notch, it's one that I'm going to be using quite a bit. Okay, so we've hopped down into the crossroads. We're going to visit Grubfather and turn in there. But you might be wondering, why didn't we turn in with Grimm? You know, we got the 3 flames from the Master Grimmkins. Why not step that quest? Well, we're going to put it off for a little while, and there's a good reason, but if I tell you, it'll spoil some of the fun. So just trust the master plan for now. Once we do finally turn in with him, you'll understand why we wanted to wait. Okay, so several grub turn-ins there at the Grubfather. and a lot of geo, and some more pale ore. So it's finally time to upgrade our nail, Devatron. And with it, I'll give you the explanation for why I've put it off this long. Okay, so there are 4 possible upgrades to the nail. The first one just costs some geo. The second one costs 1 pale ore and then some more geo. Then the third one costs 2 pale ore and some more geo. And the final one costs 3 pale ore and some more geo. Now, with each upgrade, the amount of geo increases, and it gets pretty expensive by the end. Now, as for why haven't we done any upgrades yet? The reason is this. Those Dream Warriors that we fought, like No Eyes and Elder Who and all that, the amount of hit points Dream Warriors have is in direct relation to how many upgrades you have on your nail. So if you don't have any upgrades on it, they have very few hit points, and you can kill them very quickly with upgraded spells. So that's pretty much the main reason why I haven't upgraded the nail yet.
Velmi Artred. Kachael Liasoku. Velmi Artred. War's son? Gian. Velmi Artred. Velmi Artred. Velmi Artred. Kachael Liasoku. Velmi Artred. Kachael Liasoku. Helma Delkirk.
Now, speaking of the Dream Warriors, there are still a few of them out there that we need to do. And because we're about to upgrade our nail, once we get to them, they're going to have more hit points. And accordingly, the fights will at least be longer. Whether that makes them harder or not, we'll see. But that's okay. By that point, we'll have all the bells and whistles, more lives, lots of soul, great charms, etc., etc. I mostly wanted to make the ones we've already done up to this point easier. And the other reason for upgrading the nail right now is the stuff we're about to go and do and moving on through the end of the game, you can't pussyfoot around, you know. Even though we're doing a spell build and all that, you're going to need a boss nail the rest of the way. So let's get our nail upgraded.
Vendazu. Ranjo Stenja. Jonsha. Garadel Akari.
And notice here, as we delve our nail, it's now referred to as a sharpened nail. So I'll do this after each upgrade, and you can see the results.
Vendazu. Jonsha. Garadel Akari.
Okay, and here it is, the channeled nail. Just like he said, he added a channel.
Vendasu. Jonsha. Garadel Akari.
And last, the coiled nail. Okay, so like I said, there is one more upgrade to get, but it's going to require 3 more pale ores, and we have 0 at this point. So we'll have to head out and find those and then get the final upgrade. But going from no upgrades to 3 out of 4 upgrades is pretty boss, and you're going to notice it, pretty immediately. Okay, so as for what we're doing now, obviously we dream gated back to our gate, which was in King Station. And I don't know if you've noticed, but all of a sudden we went from having 7 lives and 2 bonus soul reservoirs to having 9 lives and 3 bonus reservoirs. So I apologize for that. I've had to splice in some footage from, a save slot that's way after I've completed the game. Now, I'm not going to do any serious fighting like this or anything. The whole point of this footage was to add in some interesting lore and whatnot that I missed along the way. So our first stop is in the Tower of Love. It's a secret room just above the hallway here. Here it is. Now have a look at this. Okay, so obviously some kind of chart or diagram with a grub in the center. It looks almost astrological, right? As for what it means, don't feel bad if you can't make sense of it, because to date, nobody on the internet has been able to do so. This might be one of those things that just looked pretty cool at the time, if you know what I mean. Come on. Obviously, it has a connection to the collector, because he, is obsessed with collecting these grubs, and he's the one who put them in the jars and, had a map of where they all are. So it relates in just that sort of abstract sense of collector grubs. He has a diagram of grubs, but as for what it is or what it means, nobody knows. So let's just take it with a grain of salt. It's just further deepening the connection between the collector and the grubs. Okay, there's going to be one more stop using this sort of ex post facto footage, if you will. And if you recall, at the beginning of the episode, we found that big caterpillar, at least the tail end of it, and when we struck it with our nail, it kind of giggled at us. So I told you I was going to splice in some footage where we climb to the top of where his head is and then talk to him. So that's what's up next.
Bakura. كالت ما باكورا في ميلو كالت ما باكورا في ميلو ايه فونو
Okay, so a lot to take in from Bardoon. First of all, he mentions that this ashen place is grave of Worm, spelled Wyrm. And worm spelled that way typically refers to a type of serpent, a dragon, but wingless and limbless. And second, he says that all this falling ash is mold. So if the worm is a type of serpent or snake and it shed its skin, that would make sense. And third, he mentions that he is not a worm because he's too small and he has too many limbs. Again, the idea is that he's a caterpillar and he's just sort of, hanging out here. Okay, before I continue with analysis of Bardoon and his dialogue, notice from this screen transition right there onward, we're back to the actual footage of our playthrough, only 7 lives and 2 bonus soul reservoirs. Now back to Bardoon, he kind of corroborates our theory that the light infection is bad. He mentions it offers a type of union, but also a mind bereft of thought, instinct alone a bug is reduced, etc., etc. And he also mentions that those who follow the light rejected the worm's attempt at order. So whoever this worm was, he was definitely working against this light infection. He also mentions that this failed kingdom is product of the being spawned from that event. That event referring to the molting of the worm. So basically the idea is this big snake or serpent shed its skin, and then there was a being spawned from that event who founded this failed kingdom, i.e. Hallownest. So whatever came from that event, whatever being was spawned, was likely the king of Hallownest. Okay, we're nearing the end of the episode, and because of that, and also the fact that we have a nice shot of the map open here, let's go ahead and do a quick map break and sum up our progress of this episode since our last map break. Okay, we started the episode in King Station, City of Tears, went out here and explored these little apartments, found the pleasure house up here, rescued a grub, etc., etc. And then we went out and entered this new area, Kingdom's Edge, and we basically came up here, kind of tickled Bardoon's little tail, came back through this way, and used the love key to get into the Tower of Love, fought the Collector, and got the Collector's map, right? And then we kind of went back down here, undid this latch, and went back here to, reset our charms, and notice we set our dream gate right here, which is where it currently is. After we did all that, we went back to the Kingdom's Edge and down. Over in this area, we found our map from Cornifer, and we also defeated the third of 3 of our Grimmkins. This was the Grimmkin Master. And then we made our way up and then entered into Kingdom's Edge and kind of just kept going down and over, and eventually all the way over here we found Nail Master Oro, learned our final nail art, and then we did this sort of, one descending dark after another, and explored this long gauntlet. We found 420 Geo way down here, and then I launched into my diatribe about all that. Made our way up. This seemed to be the edge of a hive, etc. Once we kind of got back here and opened our way back in, at this point we actually dream gated back to King Station and then took the stag all the way back up to Dirtmouth. Okay, clean this up. And when we were in Dirtmouth, we talked to the Nail Sage Sly, who we didn't know was the Nail Sage, and then he gave us that charm, Nail Master's Glory. And then we also turned in with the Grub Father, and we were able to get one more pale ore. With that, we stagged back to King Station, and then made our way all the way over to the Nailsmith in the far left of City of Tears and upgraded our nail. And then we dream gated back here to our gate, and then from there I had to put in the extra footage where I went down through here, back up into the Tower of Love, showed you that secret room with the strange diagram, and then back down and over into Kingdom's Edge, and then way up here is where we finally got to talk to Bardoon, and then we made our way back down over. And this time we kind of went this way, and we found this hidden bench up here, and this is where we're having our map break. So again, we're almost done. We're going to press out this way and see what's over here, and I'm going to sum up more about what Bardoon had to say, and then wrap up the episode from there. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention about Bardoon, at least for now, is how he referenced all the ash in the area. And with that, I want you to think back to when we were first in City of Tears and we met Hornet by the fountain at the memorial to the Hollow Knight, and these were her last words to us. If, knowing that truth, you'd still attempt a role in Hallownest's perpetuation, seek the grave in ash, and the mark it would grant to one like you. So let's see out here if there's a grave and a mark and whatnot, and let's see what Hornet has to say about it all. Okay, notice our surroundings here. They do look a lot like vertebrae and rib bones and fangs and whatnot. Perhaps the skeleton of an old worm. So maybe this is the grave in ash, and here's the cast-off shell. So let's see about this mark that it grants to us. Okay, a mark indeed, Devitron, the King's brand. Hallownest shall recognize a new ruler. The kingdom's gates will open. Big time. Okay, so pulled from the rubble and debris by Hornet herself. Apparently, not only is she here to test our mettle, she's here to put her life on the line for the new king of Hallownest, Devitron. Big time. A lot going on. We're going to wrap up the episode. It's been a big one. Lots of action, lots of lore, story reveals. Can't wait to get down to the ancient basin and see what's behind that locked door. Hope you're enjoying Hollow Knight. We'll see you in the next episode.